Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. I realize it has been quite some time. I really do apologize. Still dealing with a bit of medical issues, and at the end of the year, I ended up getting the sickness that everybody else is getting. Gave it to my whole household, so it was a very hectic end of the year, missed the holidays, and when I realized the video was going to be late, I decided to just make it one video. Traditionally, I do split it up into two, but I don't think you guys deserve that at this point, so I hope you enjoy this longer form video. My next upload will not take this long, you have my word. So let's get this party started. Are you ready? Did you eat? Do you have the energy? Because today we're talking about Blaque. The three women that would eventually make up Blaque all started prospecting for their careers in their teens, all participating in talent shows in their local area, and Natina Reed had eventually started a group with the name Black Ivory, while Shamari Fears, who went to the same high school, had formed a girl group called Intrigue. Now, Brandy Williams knew Shamari through local talent shows. She did not go to school with them, and she was very briefly in Intrigue, but she wouldn't go too far with them because she decided to pursue a solo career. And Intrigue, without Brandy, would end up finding a bit of success. They won a school talent show against Natina's group. They won studio time and even landed a contract with Elektra Records, but they would eventually disband altogether, as would Natina's Black Ivory. Natina was grinding solo when she was discovered by Ronald Lopez. Ronald Lopez wanted to form a girl group to debut under his label Black House that he was forming with a business partner. And Natina was already a brilliant artist as a teen. She was a beatboxer, a writer, and she would make beats on the walls, tables, pretty much anything that was readily available to her. So she was handling pretty much all of the music at this point. So while organizing with Black House, Natina brought up Shamari and said that she should be in the group. And when Shamari was recruited, Shamari brought up Brandy, and that is how we would get our official lineup. But Ronald and his business partner would fall out, leaving both Ronald and the group without a label. Well, Ronald Lopez had a sister named Lisa Lopez, stage name Left Eye from TLC, and I'll be going back and forth with calling her Lisa and Left Eye throughout the video, obvi. And Natina felt like it was a good idea to audition for her, and Lisa loved them right off the bat. After the release of Fan Mail, Left Eye was letting it become very known that she was feeling stifled by the confines of her mega group, and she really wanted an outlet to express her own creativity, so this was probably perfect timing for both parties. Lisa would pretty much take the group from her brother, and she signed them to her production company, Left Eye Productions. After a bit of prospecting, they would score a record deal with Columbia, and this is where I think they went from Black Ivory to Blaque, because the story goes they couldn't use Black Ivory because there was already a group of that name, but all I could find was a trio from the 70s, and it's spelled B-L-A-C-K. So I believe that Left Eye switched it to B-L-A-Q-U-E and gave it the acronym Believing in Life, oh my gosh, it's so hard to say this, Believing in Life and Achieving a Quest for Unity in Everything, which is an absolute mouthful, but in true Left Eye fashion is complex like herself. So it was always my belief that the name came before the acronym. In 1997, before they officially debuted, the group made an appearance in a Lil' Kim music video for the Grammy-nominated Not Tonight remix, which included cameos from other seasoned girl groups like SWV, Escape, Total, and Changing Faces, just completely weaving them into the grades, and I'm so here for it. And they actually thought they were going to debut soon after this, but production delays would hold them back for another 2 years. But just before they would start making a name for themselves, they were given the opportunity to open up for a few dates of NSYNC's second concert tour, as well as other girl groups that were starting out at the time, and I would kill for the footage. But on May 4th, 1999, Blaque would burst onto the scenes for themselves, finally, with their debut single, 808. And I was floored when I found out that they did not want this to be their debut track. They were very much wanting to be in the pop realm, and that song is very R&B. Nonetheless, it was a massive success for them, and it became certified gold, selling over 700,000 units. And the music video is super cute. It has all of the Y2K futurism that triggers our nostalgia. There was levitation, cloning, teleportation, Men in Black, so much going on, yet the colors were very muted, and the instrumentals were so meditative. I cannot rave enough about these instrumentals. I love that the 808 is so strong. In the scene when Shamari first sings the pre-chorus, she hits her fist on her chest, and it sounds real, and that sound is continuous throughout the song, so it even adds this ASMR element to it. It just made the song feel like nothing I've heard before. I feel like it was a perfectly packaged debut single. But there is a downside to all of this. I must let you guys know, while our girl Natina is credited as a songwriter, The song is heavily produced and co-written by Roberto Kelly, which poses quite the conundrum. I did watch a 2021 interview on the YouTube channel I Love Black Ivory, and she said that they own their masters. But I don't know if that applies to the first album, and I don't know if that still gives him royalties. But I also know that he is not doing so well at this point in his life, so I don't think it's going to benefit him much regardless, but I will leave that up to you if you do want to stream it or not. But if you don't want to stream it, I don't think watching re-uploads of the performance will do any harm, and I think it is well worth it because the choreography just cracks me up. Whose idea was this? But Natina killed her rap verses. She did it 100% live on that man's shoulders. I imagine that being really uncomfortable and really destabilizing, so I thought she did a good job given the circumstances. And while on the subject of her raps, she sounds so much like Left Eye, and I mean that as an absolute compliment. Even their speaking voices sounded pretty similar, and they're very artistic women, so after Blaque debuted, the TLC comparisons came rather quickly, and they were always not well intended. And I imagine that being really frustrating for Natina because she was writing and more or less producing their music since before they even had a record deal, before they even met with Left Eye, so I wasn't surprised when I read that she was the one to speak out respectfully saying, no, that's not what we're doing, we're not here to copy TLC, and TLC was very hip-hop and R&B, and they didn't merge into pop until like the third album. We're jumping into pop from the get-go. We fully intend on being pop artists. So much so that when the president of Sony, Tommy Mottola, sat in for a recording session, he came up with the idea for them to cover Cyndi Lauper's Time After Time, and it is a very straightforward cover. They didn't change much at all, and it's very much a statement piece that their voices can do pop, that they can exist in pop spaces, and for that idea to come from Tommy Mottola himself, I think says a lot. We don't stan him, but it does say a lot. So after 808 became a success, on June 1st, 1999, the self-titled debut album was Unleashed. And after making my Dream video, I knew I had to do Blaque next because when Dream debuted, their music was called A Product of the Time, but they still managed to go platinum. And when Blaque debuted, they were called The Sound of the Moment, and they also went platinum. I said it once and I'll say it again, golden age of pop. But Dream and Blaque, I feel like their singles just embodied what the sound was at the time in the best way ever. Both underestimated girl groups, both fans of bubble rap, there's no one like them. And to keep the ball rolling with album sales, on July 11th, the second single to come out was Bring It All to Me, which sort of gave the opposite meaning of TLC's No Scrubs, which I think is funny. Intentional? Maybe. And the remix added JC Chaze's vocals and his infamous line, "Are you feeling my Timbs, my baggy jeans, my thug appeal?" But in all seriousness, he is my favorite NSYNC member. He has a gorgeous voice, by far the best of the band, and it was actually really close to being Justin, but he was filming that long-lost DCOM Model Behavior, and this song actually gave them their highest charting hit on the Billboard Hot 100, peaking at number 5. And Billboard also ranked it number 54 on their list of 100 greatest girl group songs of all time. This track also won them Best New R&B Artist at the Billboard Music Awards. The third and final single released was I Do, and for this they finally got to go full-blown pop with elements of doo-wop. And this song is very K-pop-esque, not that K-pop isn't a product of Western music, but K-pop-esque in that it has two separate beats with like a rap thrown in. And I can appreciate when bubblegum meets rap, but much like K-pop, the sound could be kind of polarizing. You either get it or you don't. The music video is probably my favorite. I think it is so cute. I love every single outfit. I love all of the makeup looks, and Natina and Left Eye go toe-to-toe in this one, and to hype it all up, they shot a karate scene where Left Eye is the sensei and Natina is the student, just showing complete respect for each other and showing their comfortability in being Lisa's proteges. And their rapping, both of their raps, are just brilliant. Now at the height of their careers, the girls were offered a part in the movie called Cheer Fever, Bring It On's working title, with no audition and no prior acting experience. They did a 4-week boot camp with all of the other casted cheerleaders to make the moves look as authentic as possible, and Blaque did do all their own stunts. And Gabrielle Union recently made a quick story time on her TikTok account, and she said that when the movie was shown to test audiences, they overwhelmingly wanted more of the Clovers in the movie, so they actually catfished us by filming a bunch of random nonsense to put into the trailers so that the public would think that the Clovers were in the movie a lot more than they actually were, which kind of sucks, and I always wondered why there were extra scenes in the trailers that we didn't see in the movies. They gave LaFred a love interest and everything, but nonetheless, the Clovers were by far the stars of the show. That movie has pretty much cemented itself into pop culture because it highlights the concept that would later be labeled as white privilege. This high school of upper class, mostly white teens were being handed all of these accolades for executing executing watered-down versions of exciting cheers that were choreographed by lesser privileged, mostly Black teens. And as a kid, I felt like I was absorbing that message, but as an adult, I find it to be so much more important because it's something that will unfortunately continue to manifest for the rest of eternity, I'm sure. And with the onset of social media, we get to see it all happen in real time. So the writer and director of this movie did an excellent job in making a serious topic very, very palatable to the mainstream audience. So when I read that the role was actually given to Blaque, I kind of took a step back and realized that this was not a coincidence. These girls from the get-go were fighting for their place in pop music. They were fighting in the movie just like they had to fight in their careers. The pop scene was all blonde hair at that point.
A lot of blonde hair going on out there.
And there were 3 Black women saying, we want to do pop music. So I think it was really iconic that they were chosen for those roles. And to this day, the East Compton Clovers remain pop culture icons. Every single Halloween, groups of girls dress up as the Clovers. Not even Ariana Grande's influence could bring out more Toros that year. And I will take it a step further and say Blaque are the icons, because while some do take on Gabrielle Union's look, the overwhelming majority are doing the pigtails, they're doing the bandanas, they're dressing up as Lava, Janelope, and LaFred. The girls also contributed to the movie soundtrack and released As If, which is another silky smooth pop track featuring another NSYNC member, Joey Fatone. The girls often said that the NSYNC members were like big brothers to them, and Dream said the same thing, so it sounds like NSYNC were some good dudes back in the day. The music video itself I deemed to be homage to TLC with the multicolored outfits. It was very much on trend to have girl groups look like one package. They all usually had matching outfits. So when they came out with bold different colors, I instantly thought of TLC, and I don't think that's a coincidence. The girls also did a cameo in Ludacris's Welcome to Atlanta music video along with dozens of relevant hip-hop and R&B artists of the time, so we can safely say that these girls were absolutely everywhere. And while achieving their quest for world domination, their love lives were also flourishing. Shamari started dating Ronnie DeVoe of New Edition and BBD. She also featured on a song for the BBD track The Hot-ish. And Natina started dating and later became engaged to Philadelphia rapper Corrupt, who, according to Eminem, is one of the best to ever do it. I needed to add that in. She even featured on his hit song It's Over, and she was also a part of the music video along with Snoop Dogg, and that song was very much a meme of its time. Every kid would bust out singing the chorus every time they won like a kickball game or something. It was definitely a moment. But unfortunately, the rap couple would never make it down the aisle, as they would call things off in 2002 after Natina gave birth to a baby boy. Around this time, their mentor Left Eye was becoming more immersed in holistic living and would often travel to Honduras between projects. She would also take her artists with her on these trips, and Blaque has traveled with her before, and in 2002 they were scheduled to travel with her once again with another group that she was developing called Egypt. But for unspecified reasons, they didn't go to that one, and that would ultimately be the trip that would claim Lisa's life. She died in an automobile accident, and Natina was said to have taken it the absolute hardest. They were by far the closest, and during Natina's pregnancy, they were living together. And after her baby was born, Left Eye did become the godmother. So throw in being postpartum, throw in a broken engagement, and now losing her best friend, it was not a good time for Natina. And on top of everything, the group's 2002 Blackout was shelved and they were dropped from Columbia Records. Natina got pregnant during the recording process, and you all know how shallow these labels are. They were not about to promote a pregnant woman. So that was the end of the road for Blaque and Columbia. They did release a single called Can't Get It Back, and a music video was filmed, but very few of us have seen it. Brandy has gone on record to say that it was 100% released and she can't even find it anymore, so it is lost footage at this point. And I think that was intentional because after they were dropped, the song was quickly given to British girl group Mystique, and their version was released just 2 years later. Luckily, we have the rest of the Blackout album today, but they were completely sabotaged by not being able to release it. I think it is a great follow-up album. The girls executive produced the album. Natina said it was her favorite. It's my favorite. Temperature is my favorite track, but they also have socially conscious tracks, one of them being Thinking About It, where they give their commentary on the current state of hip-hop. And some of the language that Blaque used in that track, I still think would be considered inflammatory in 2022. So in 2002, that was a bold move. They were ready to be talked about with that album. So it is downright hostile to retaliate on a pregnant artist in the way that they did. And there's even a song that alludes to the stress that Natina was going through during her pregnancy called Should I? And it breaks my heart heart. But luckily, after being dropped, they were quickly signed to Elektra Records, making this Shamari's second time being signed to them, and they quickly went to work on their technically third album, Torch. For this album, they were working heavily with Missy Elliott and Darkchild. You guys know I love Missy Elliott, but under Elektra, the girls no longer had the creative freedom that they had become used to. Brandy has stated that when working with Left Eye, they had about 80% artistic freedom, all the way down to the album cover. It was Natina's idea to dress them in bubble wrap, so now that they were on the opposite end of that spectrum, I could imagine them feeling very uncomfortable. But at this point, we didn't even have a second album, so they were willing to put their fans before themselves, and they did what they had to do to get music out. They released a single called I'm Good, and it was the soundtrack for the movie Honey with Jessica Alba, and they even shot a cameo at the end with Missy Elliott, so it was very much like a reintroduction, which at the time felt cool because it was the start of a new era, but now knowing what they were going through behind the scenes, it kind of just makes me feel bleh. But the song itself I really like. To me, it still sounds like Blaque, and Shamari sings the heck out of it. The whole pre-chorus is my favorite. And you know, we were just geared up and ready to stand once again, but at some point during the production of Torch, Natina Reed departed from the group to go into ministry. She went through a lot of life-changing events in a really short period of time, so I do not blame her for wanting to get closer to her God at all. Added that she was the backbone of the group's image and music, and now she was being treated as pretty much an industry plant. I'm not surprised at all. I really don't blame her. It's a really unfortunate situation. In a way, she really did find herself in the same position as Left Eye was all those years prior during the fan mail era. They did replace her with a woman named Erica Pullins, but they would never debut with this member because Sylvia Rohn, the head of Elektra, who had signed them at the time, would move on to a new company, and apparently when that happens, they do a clean sweep and all of the artists under that CEO get scrubbed. Blaque was now dropped, and the girls now had 2 shelved albums. And separately, the girls would flounder for a few years. In 2005, Brandy lent her vocals to Nelly's hit song Grills. That was a huge track at the time. They did have a little fling going on, and she had also put out her own single called Love It. Shamari was signed to Darkchild and was set to debut in 2006, but she dropped everything when Brandy, Natina, and herself decided to reunite and start working on an album and a reality show. Talk about loyalty. But 2 of her songs recorded as a soloist got leaked, the first being The One, the other NJ2. Blaque would name their 4th album Private Show, and they were recording from 2005 to 2009. During that time, Brandy and Ronnie got married, and in 2007, the Blackout album was released for a period of time on iTunes, but eventually taken back off. Blaque agreed to film a reality show called Black in the House, which filmed the process of them making a new album under the mentorship of T-Boz. Once Lisa passed, the girls mentioned that T-Boz became very supportive of them, and this was going to document that. But the reality show was never picked up. Blaque released 4 songs on YouTube: Cut You Off, All Nighter, Blue Jeans, and High Definition, before they ultimately decided on disbanding, never releasing that 4th album. Brandy said that they were 3 different women with 3 different goals, so obviously there was some conflict. But it wouldn't be the last time we saw Blaque together. In the summer of 2012, they reunited for the Left Eye Music Festival in Decatur, Georgia. Shortly after that festival, Blaque met up with Inga Nandy Willis, who used to work very closely with Left Eye at writing. She was actually the one who wrote Left Eye's verses and Donnell Jones' You Know What's Up, and oh my god, I had no clue. Left Eye's presence on that track is what makes that song perfect. It is such an iconic rap feature, at least to me. So if Blaque could no longer work with Left Eye, this was absolutely the next best thing. And the 4 of them started working on an album along with another reality show. But just as things would start to realign for the group, tragedy would strike once again. On October 26 in 2012, 10 years after her mentor and 2 days before her 32nd birthday, Natina Reed died after being struck by a vehicle while crossing the street. The driver was found not to be at fault, and he or she did exactly what they were supposed to do. They called 911 around 10:30, stayed with her, tried to help her until the paramedics arrived. She was rushed to the hospital and pronounced dead at 10:59 p.m. The remaining members of Blaque put out a statement reading, "We are devastated by the loss of our group member, sister, and friend Natina Reed. Because of the enormous support of Blaque fans and our love for each other, Blaque officially reunited this fall, and we were in the process of working on a new album and a reality show." Natina continuously embodied the pioneering spirit of Blaque, and her undeniable creativity touched the hearts of fans everywhere. Natina was a mother, sister, accomplished songwriter, artist, and friend. We ask for your prayers at this time for Natina's family. She will be forever missed, and her global influence eternally felt. We thank God for the experiences we shared. In the years leading up to her death, Natina seemed seemed to have fallen on some harder times. In 2010, she was charged with violating open container laws and disorderly conduct. And to kick her while she was down, somebody photoshopped her arrest record, adding cocaine possession and prostitution charges. But her management was quick to set the record straight. In 2011, she was booked for a DUI, and in 2012, the year she passed, she was arrested for disorderly conduct, and that is said to also be alcohol related. So because of all of this, people have attached a lot of suspicion to her death. There is even a quote from the sergeant working the case saying there's not really anything in that area that's open at that time of night, or that would be any kind of draw to a person up there, and that was the green light for conspiracy theories. People started to draw attention to her rap sheet, and I won't defend any of it, but she had nothing to do with her death. If we found her body in an alley, sure, maybe something's off, but she was hit by a car, for crying out loud. Let her rest in peace. I felt so sad for her, and I felt so sad for her family and her son, who was 10 years old, having to hear all of these rumors about his mother, who had every right to be out at 10:30 at night. We are talking about a 31-year-old woman being out at 10:30 on a Friday night. That is not a weird situation. She was walking because she didn't have her license, and she was found to be walking home from a store, so obviously something was open. And if I was a betting man, I would assume that she was out getting alcohol. If I was being unbiased, it seems like that might have been a problem at that point in her life. So while I would have advised against it on a personal level, when a 31-year-old decides at 10:30 that she wants to do a food run, a cigarette run, or a beer run, they are going to do so. That in and of itself is not abnormal. There was even people saying that she was homeless, that her son's father had to pay for the entire funeral, which her mother stepped in and had to set the record straight on Twitter, explaining that she was not homeless, she was working on music, something Shamari would back up because she was on the phone with her just 2 hours before the accident. And she also explained that Corrupt did not pay for the entire funeral, but he did pay for extra security. It was just a complete mess of a situation, and it is so sad that her family had to go through that while mourning her death. A lot of people have also pointed out the parallels between Lisa and Natina's death, both being car related, but what I also find crazy is that while they died 10 years apart, 10 months later, Natina's sister Nisha was found dead in her home, and I don't know that her cause of death was ever found out and or made public. There's a video of Brandy and Shamari singing at Nisha's funeral, and it is so hard to watch because you can see how broken Shamari is. I can't believe what this family went through in just a year. But now just a duo, Shamari and Brandy would return to the studio to work on music together. They released a song called Summertime Ride-In and another song called Today, and the money earned would be given to Natina's son Tren. I don't know if they still do this, but after Natina's passing, they would get together every year and celebrate her birthday, which was so sweet. Corrupt was in attendance, Ronald Lopez was in attendance, large crowds of family and friends. It's really fantastic that they were doing everything that they could to keep her memory alive. Into the 2010s, Shamari would get her bachelor's degree in sociology. Both girls would do various gigs and interviews whenever they could. Fans never fully forgot about them, and it always seemed like there was this interest in hearing that unreleased album Torch. Even after the 2016 leak of the track Storm, SoundCloud user Anonymous posted the song and said that it was to be on their upcoming release of the album Private Show. The song was dedicated to Left Eye and written by T-Boz, and in the end, Natina is the one to say, "Energy never dies, it just transforms," like this. It is so weird that those two words would be thrown into the lyrics because they didn't necessarily need to be there, in my opinion. I read the lyrics before listening, and when I read it, it straight up didn't make sense to me. But hearing how she said it sent chills down my spine. And it ends with, "I love you, Lisa." She doesn't say we, even though it's a collective. It's like she was personally talking to Lisa. That was her own little moment within the song. In conjunction with what ended up happening, it just blows my mind. And I don't know if anybody else has touched on that. But I also find it funny that it didn't create the same hype around Private Show in the same way that hype was created around Torch. Fans absolutely kept their foot on Blaque's neck for the release of Torch. I think by this time snippets had circulated throughout the internet, but when the girls were released from Elektra, they were actually given the Torch album, so they always had it. I found one article saying that they had to win the rights from Matthew Knowles in order to release it. There are so many other accounts straight from the horse's mouth that don't retell it that way. I have never heard them restate that. They have never even made it a broad statement, like, we didn't have the rights, so we needed to get that before we could put it out. But what they have stated on multiple occasions is that they didn't really like the album. So I almost wonder if the Matthew Knowles story was kind of put out to distract from the fact that they just didn't want to give it to us all these years. Even in life, Natina was like, well, we don't really like it, so why put it out? I think they just had a lot of ill feelings towards their time with Elektra. But that is completely my own theory. I might be missing something entirely. Blaque fans would eventually put together a petition for this album release, and finally in 2019, on the 20th anniversary of the group's debut album, Torch was finally released. On the album art, you'll notice that Left Eye is in the sky with a torch hovering above her hand, extending to Blaque, who are looking ready for a mission. And it is to be taken in a literal sense. These girls were ready to carry on Lisa's memory. Had the album released in 2003, it would have been a year after Lisa's passing. The album was named Torch as an homage to their mentor who now lived on through them, a passing of the torch from Left Eye to the girls, which is beautiful and meaningful. And now finally being able to listen to Torch in full, there is very much a war of sound going on between the experimental, funky instrumentals of Missy Elliott and the Y2K pop sound. I don't hate the album at all. My favorite song is It's Not Me, but I understand why the girls had some apprehension. Some of the songs, in my opinion, sound straight up like Missy Elliott tracks. I can picture the song Ugly being done entirely by Missy, vocals and all, and you could just tell by looking at the track listing which songs were Missy's. Ugly, Freakazoid, Wanksta. She was clearly mad at someone in 2003, but all in all, it was really great for their legacy to finally have that album that just never really left the minds of their fans. Overlapping the album release, from fall of 2018 through 2019, Shamari was also on The Real Housewives of Atlanta, which was really exciting for me because she was joining veteran cast member Candy of Escape. They had worked together throughout their careers. Candy wrote the 808 remix, and this was her only season on the show. And I don't have cable, so I didn't watch the season in full, but from what I've seen, I think she was a bit of an oversharer on the show. I feel like a few things she said about her marriage probably should have been left in the vault, so I wasn't surprised that she didn't come back for a second season, but she was such a firecracker. She was so energetic, and she was still so tiny. Even after having twins, she remained fit as a fiddle. And in 2021, Shamari also got involved with BET's Encore, a reality show that extracted Irish and Lamisha from 702, Felicia and Fallon from Cherish, Pamela Long from Total, Aubrey from Danity Kane, and Keely Williams from 3LW and the Cheetah Girls, and for some reason Nivea, on a 30-day challenge to record and perform music, and Shamari was one of the castmates to make it all the way to the end, and the group debuted with the name Blueprint, and it was a fun little project. I was very surprised by the final package. I thought they were actually really polished and they looked really good, and I generally like the concept of older girl groups being summoned for variety type shows. I feel like South Korea pays so much more respect to their former girl groups all of the time, and I hope in America we can get more used to this concept. As for Brandy, while I would love to see her beautiful face on reality once again, she stood busy elsewhere. She got a nail polish brand up and running during the quarantine year that she was inspired to launch after not being able to get her nails done at salons anymore. And both ladies as a duo are still 100% active in music. You still might be able to catch one of their shows. They've said that they feel like they have never broken up. And best of all, they continue to talk about Natina and keep her legacy alive. They remain in touch with Natina's family as well as Left Eye's family. What started out as a girl group ended up being an extended family. And with that being said, I want to thank Blaque for their music and for truly achieving unity in everything. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye, guys.